Breathlessness has affected me psychologically in a massive way. When you have it for the whole of the day and in through the night, is all-encompassing. If you think about it, it's all day, every day. When you're well, you can breathe without thinking about it, but when you can't breathe and you're breathless, every minute and every second of every day, you're thinking about breathlessness. For somebody who used to focus their life on their work and the family, now my life's focused on breathing. I'm constantly anxious, so the effects then, the knock-on effects can be that you feel quite sad, and sometimes I can have very depressive days because it's all encompassing and you just think those days, why me? Why is it happening? And it sort of takes over, and that's when you need the strength of the medicines and also the understanding of not just your family and your friends who are living through this nightmare with you, but for people outside specialist centres like hospitals and GPs and still think that there's nothing wrong with you because they look at you and think you're fine. So the anxiety is great in that you think, who's going to see me next, and will they make me worse because they don't know what I've got, and the fact that I'm struggling to breathe every day.
Study and you're struggling, isn't it?
I had a bad night though again.
Oh, I know. She will overexert herself by doing the simplest of things, and then you can hear her puffing, panting. Even on some occasions, she's talking and you can hear the breathlessness in her voice. She gets anxious about her breathlessness, and that in itself makes her even more breathless.
I'm not as independent as I used to be. I'm more scared of situations, feel very vulnerable. Basically, you feel unsafe within your own body because you don't really know what's going to happen next.
She will invariably not have a good night's sleep because she's probably conscious of her breathlessness. A number of times that she has sleepless nights, and I wake up and she's there with 2 pillows propped up and just trying to catch her breath.
Just getting out of bed and making your bed after being in it can be a real struggle. It's a 24/7 struggle because there is no let up. Just to go out the front door in itself can be a test of whether the day is going to work, because if, depending on the weather, you can feel instantly breathless. That can influence how your trip will go immediately. And I actually use the trolley from the minute I get it to walk around the supermarket, and the trolley becomes like a standing frame for me with my breathlessness, and I use the trolley to lean on so that I can rest because I'm becoming breathless quite quickly, and I constantly use the trolley or make an excuse that I'm looking for something in the trolley, and that's a constant throughout the shopping. So I don't often go to the shops on my own. I'll do an occasional trip if I feel well and pick a couple of items up, but otherwise it's a joint trip. And I'm a very independent person. I would never ever ask anybody for any help, and I would always help somebody else. So it's a real flip side of the coin for me, that I am now the dependent. It's that feeling of you're inside this little prison and you won't get out, really. Probably 6-7 times out of 10, when I park in a blue badge bay, people watch me getting out of my car and have a comment to make either directly to me or to somebody else, and you know they're watching you and watching how you move about your car and why have you got a blue badge when you seem to look okay? And I have had a couple of instances personally of people verbally attacking me and abusing me because they think I'm a well person.
There are a few occasions where she will go shopping on her own. She will probably struggle to get the stuff into the car. When she arrives, I will take all the stuff from the car, again, put it all into the kitchen, put it all away, and invariably brew the tea.
Then when we come back home, and I can always tell that I need to sit down and relax and rest, and I quite often fall asleep for about an hour, or just don't move from the sofa between 3 and 5 o'clock. It's like my body's shutting down. Whereas I used to go all day till I went to bed and I didn't need to rest. Now it's essential to have that to help me help my pH. My family are close. I only have one son and daughter, one grandson. We've become closer even though we're adults. Like mine phone me every morning, WhatsApp me every time of the day, and I'm aware that it's changed their life really, because without them wanting to say it to me, I know that I'm focusing in their life, probably more than I should be. The fact that I have the breathlessness and it can happen with any kind of exertion, again, just doing simple things. And so Kevin does things, even if I feel well, to make the task easier for me, because I enjoy doing things like that. And also it helps me to still have a little bit of independence when I can be part of something, but I can't do things on my own. When it comes to the evening meal, after having a whole day and dealing with the anxieties and the tiredness, sometimes I need to sit down to be part of that preparation, because sometimes if I've tried to do it myself, stood up and say I'm cutting vegetables and I'm holding a knife, and I don't realise that I could just collapse at any time. So they're quite dangerous scenarios that are linked with preparing a meal. If I stand at the cooker for too long just stirring something, again with the heat and the actual physical activity of doing that, sometimes you can become dizzy and breathless. So again, I have to step away and say, can somebody else finish this off for me, or can somebody else do it for me? Because you have this constant fear that you could be in danger.
Initially, when she is breathless, it brings me back to when she was experiencing fainting episodes, and certainly at the time I always come back to the phone call I had with the emergency services, and it was the question was, is she breathing? And to be honest, I didn't think she was. It's so much so that I gave her mouth-to-mouth resuscitation. I think that brought her around quickly. But at this time, I'm still not certain whether she had just fainted or she had stopped breathing. So it is quite emotional at those times and quite worrying.
Kevin helps me. I never used to be aware of it, but he's actually watching over me all the time. I used to say to him, why are you stood there? And he'd make up an excuse. And then one day when we had a chat, he told me he was bothered after the blackouts I'd had, that something could happen to me. So he's always in the background, and he's always around where I might need him or see him, or where he can be heard. Especially if it's a bad day, Kevin will do everything basically for me. My treatments are an integral part of me being here. I've been diagnosed for 5 years, and in those 5 years I've gone through every form of treatment there is for pH. You just have to see what works and for how long. We're not on anything indefinitely because it depends on the progression of the pH and the speed of the progression.
As well as being my partner, she's probably my best friend, so the time together is precious.
Despite the fact that I do have PH and I do live with breathlessness, I wake up every morning knowing that my family is around me, my friends are around me, and my grandson, who I look forward to seeing every day. And some days I can play with him, some days I can't. But that's what keeps me going. And the fact that the drugs seem to be helping me, because I really didn't think at the stage when I was diagnosed that I would still be here a few years later and able to do some of the things that I thought I wouldn't do. So the focus now in my life is my family and my grandchildren and my home, basically.